Right. So welcome back everyone to another episode of Chat Pretend here. Joining me today. What can I say? I'm already having the best Tuesday already because I have the show, the incredible, the amazing, the badass, the superstar, the legendary, the one and only, the incredible David. David, how are you today?
I'm pretty good. After that intro, I'm even better.
There
That's
you go. Pretty cool. What better way to have an incredible, super badass Tuesday than to be chatting with someone as badass as you? You know what I mean?
all right. Well, back at you.
There you go. Now, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, follow. It helps a lot. But also, in the description below, you're gonna find all of David's social media. Let's follow him. Let's share some love. And let's find out why he's super badass. We're on a mission right now. And without further more, let's jump in. So, starting out, with the whole interview, tell me where the journey began. Was there a performance, film, something that made you trigger the whole thing to make you realize, you know what, this is where my journey begins now?
Yeah, I guess I grew up watching a lot of movies and getting exposed to a lot of different performance medias. Grateful for my parents for that, for kind of allowing me and my sister to be exposed to as many different kind of forms of storytelling and stuff as possible. And I grew up on the classic movie musicals and like Disney movies and the early 2000s movies that sort of took off in the franchises. And I realized that for some reason I could always remember the different like scripts. Like me and my sister, we would just go back and forth kind of saying the movies and doing voices and stuff with like the original Pirates of the Caribbean movies and like the Lord of the Rings movies and stuff. And it was, I kind of fell in love with like voices and doing accents and stuff like that, but didn't really realize that there was any application to that until I did some plays in school. And my first ever play that I did was Guys and Dolls, and I had like a 2-line role. But I remember thinking like in those 2 lines, the audience was like paying attention to me, and I could say these lines, and everyone was watching, and it was felt important, and there was this team element to it. And I played sports, but like felt different. It was like we were all working towards this common goal together, and it was very exciting. So I slowly just started doing more and more theater, and I've always sang too, so that was always a coupling that led to musical theater, obviously. But then I sort of fell in love with acting as well, and went to school for acting, and yeah, so it's just kind of a slow burn. I'm not someone who was like 4 years old singing and dancing and thinking this is what I'm going to do for sure, but it's something that kind of slowly percolated over time, I think.
And what was the reaction of your, parents, family, close ones when you told them that you want to pursue this career?
I was lucky. I had a support system that was fostered that whole thing. I never felt like I had to hide the fact that that's what I wanted to do, and I felt supported through it because it's a lot. It's a big bet to make on your kid, I guess, to send them to school for arts in general. And it's not a meritocracy. It's not a guarantee. There's no sort of career roadmap that is easily followable. So, but fortunately, my family just sort of, they love the arts too. So I think for them, it's just nice to have more exposure to it in that way. So yeah, kind of feel lucky that way.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now, how did financially uncertainty shape your mindset during, the early years of your acting career?
Yeah, I mean, financial uncertainty is not something that ends after the early years. I feel like, as I said, this industry is not always merit based, and it's not always the person. It's so relationship based, and like the person who gets the job over you might be 2 inches taller or shorter, or it's the classic things that everyone says all the time that I don't have to reiterate, but you're never thinking, oh, I know exactly what I'm doing next. Or if you do, it's often the exception and not the rule. So there's a lot of kind of, I guess, adaptation that I've noticed that I've done to sort of offset that sort of uncertainty. But I think finding things that you love outside of the career in acting and singing, and giving your life value outside of that with your relationships and with your friendships and whatever hobbies and stuff help to make those those gaps feel a little better. And then having some kind of, I've been a waiter at a restaurant ever since I moved here, and I'm lucky that they're able to have me back between jobs, and I've gone long periods of not working there, and I've gone back and whatever it might be. So that's been nice to have. But yeah, New York is an expensive place to live, so you got to find you got to find ways to make ends meet. When you're in a famine and not a feast.
So you have, side jobs between here and there. So my question here is, how has that impacted you in your career to create better characters to it?
Yeah, well, I think, I've always thought that the more life experience you have, the more you have to draw from as an actor. And I think that it's important to have experiences outside of exactly what you're doing. I think that I've been informed by meeting people outside the industry and interacting with people outside the industry and being a person outside the industry at times to kind of broaden that landscape. And a lot of acting I feel like is observation and observing other people and how they behave, and you get to bump elbows with people who do completely different things than you do, and also it humbles you in a way. Like I've been humbled time and time again with having to find the ways to live outside of career. And I also just think I think everyone should work in service at some point, because you become a better patron of service establishments after you've been on the other end of it, I think, which, yeah, I think it's a valuable lesson, and it's just a way to treat others better, honestly.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it kind of helps you. Yeah, it does help you. It does help you a lot, and it also makes you realize how it makes you realize sometimes how messed up of a society we are. Sometimes,
Yeah,
which you're like, oh crap, we are actually.
yeah,
But as you said, it can also help you to understand more and to have more empathy to it. You know what I mean?
totally.
To the people in general. So
Yeah, one of the things that like bothers me more than anything else is if I'm eating with people at a restaurant, and somebody I would never expect to, like, doesn't treat the waiter well. I'm like, that's crazy. And maybe it's because they haven't been a waiter themselves. So, but you would hope they would treat them well no matter what. But it helps to have experienced the other end of that, and you kind of just you notice things. You never do that again.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Now, when you strip away roles, credits, and expectations, tell me who you are at your core.
I think I'm just a really curious and person, and I feel I'm very sensitive. I'm very aware of. I feel like I'm one of those people who, if I'm around a group of people, we're all sitting and hanging out, and like somebody says something off color or something, and maybe a group is laughing about it. Maybe there's a person who like gets quiet or so. I feel like I'm always the one who like zeroes in on that person. I'm like, oh, that didn't hit them right, and then I feel like I don't know that I'm like, empath or something, but I definitely feel like that's something that, for better or worse, I take everywhere I go. I'm very nostalgic. I'm very sensitive. I'm always looking to make people as comfortable as they can be. I don't know if you know anything about the Enneagram personality tests. It's a personality test that's 1 through 9, and I'm a 9, which is just like a peacemaker. So I think that that's not that I live my life by those personality tests, but it can sometimes feel you can feel read a little bit by them sometimes, and I feel like that one fits for who I am.
I like it. That sounds like a title of a film next time. The Peacemaker. Just saying.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Tell tell Christopher Nolan I'm ready for his next movie.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Now, was there a moment when things looked successful from the outside, but felt quite heavy on the inside?
Definitely. I've done a couple of national tours, and I feel like those are times where there's the common saying in the theater world, in the film TV world too, of just like booked and blessed. And so it's like, if you're working, you're lucky. You should be happy at all times because there's so many people who are unemployed in this industry. But oftentimes, I think from the outside, it can look that way, and you can think, oh, it's great, you're working, you're traveling the country, whatever it is. And there are beautiful elements to that, but I think touring and doing the same show. I did a tour for a year, and I think that was a very challenging year. I made some incredible friends. I saw some beautiful places, but there were long stretches of it where I was really homesick. I was really feeling, dealing with mental health stuff, and away from friends and family for that long can be hard. And just doing the same job for a year can be hard. And maintaining the energy that it takes to do the same role 300 plus times. So, yeah, I think that that's probably way more common than I might have thought, 15 years ago when I was just figuring this stuff out, like assuming that everyone who was on a tour or was on a long Broadway show or whatever was just, having the time of their lives 100% of the time. It's just definitely not the case.
And was there like a technique or something that you do in order to keep up with the stress to it and not let yourself being really affected by?
I feel like trying to find the things that you can do to self-regulate, like if there's sort of habits that you have at home that you can take with you in those moments, if there's certain routines that you do and you can try to keep those going, certain, if there's a candle that you like that you use in your apartment or your home that you can have that same aroma in your hotel room or your Airbnb or something like that, that can be nice. If there's a pillow that you like to sleep with, you bring that. Those sorts of things, because it's such a disruption to your life to pick up and move away. If there are things that you can take with you to minimize the feeling of of your life being kind of uprooted and disrupted, I think that those are very valuable in that way. Yeah,
Mm. It's interesting how even till this day, some people still think that acting is just learn your lines and good to go, right? And they
I
don't,
know.
and they still don't understand that sometimes, I mean, at the end of the day, we're humans too, and if you push yourself too much, even in acting, just you can have some mental problems to it, and that's understandable because at the end, it's part of the thing. You know what I mean? We're humans to it.
Yeah, yeah. It's always funny when like, you come out the stage door or something and somebody who is, has come to see the show and they come up to you and they're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe how do you learn all those lines?" Like it's so impressive. And it's like I totally understand that question. Like I have empathy for that. I'm like, yeah, I mean, from the outside that might look like the hardest part, but that's really the, step one of any creative process, and then there's like 100 other steps after that. So it's always funny when people kind of assume that's the hard part, like you said.
Totally. Now, what moment in your acting journey forced you to confront yourself the most?
I think moving, I think leaving my home, which I didn't go very far. I grew up in Baltimore, but I that's a big decision for anyone, I think, to make. And it's kind of that moment of landing in your new place and sitting there and thinking, I made this decision. Let me give this a go. Let me see how this goes. And it was exciting, but it felt like a risk. And it felt like, okay, now I have to do this because I made that decision.
Now switch it to our halftime show. Quick speed round questions. Yes, no, or pass. Super simple. Gonna ask you a
Hmm.
couple of questions, and you can only answer yes, no, or pass. You ready?
Okay. Okay.
So, have you ever waited weeks for an answer that took seconds to say no?
Yes.
Have you memorized scenes that never made it past the audition room?
Yes.
Have you ever been told you were perfect, but still not right?
Yes.
Have you learned to live with uncertainty better than most people you know?
No.
All right. Have you celebrated a win that looked very small to everyone else?
Yeah.
Have you questioned your entire path while still loving the craft?
No.
Have you learned to separate rejection from self-worth?
Yes.
Do you think actors develop patience faster than most people?
No.
Has acting taught you more about yourself than success did?
Yes.
And do you believe this journey has made you stronger in quiet ways?
Yes.
And a bonus one, can you cry on cue?
Um, Yeah, yeah.
All right. All right. Now, returning to our general transmission here, tell me, what do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about acting?
Maybe that we're paid a lot. Like I think there's a lot more people who are struggling financially, even in movies and TV. Like people think that it's glamorous and that people are getting, paid a lot. It's really even on a show like, I don't know, I'm watching The Pit right now. Even on that, I'm like, I know that a lot of the people I'm seeing in this, a lot of the guest stars and stuff are not walking home with a lot of money, and things aren't syndicated anymore. So it's like you're not getting residuals for it. And then even if you're on a tour or you're doing a regional contract with theater, you're working really hard. You're putting a lot of energy into this job, and the compensation is not always, rarely, I would say, matches the level of work that's happening.
Hmm. Yeah, it's so interesting. And I do think that it's caused to the media, when we hear, for example, things like Charlie Sheen was making a million bucks for every episode in Two and a Half Men, right? So
Hmm.
when you th wait, so I can totally understand. I can understand that when you hear things like that, is like everybody's getting the same thing. But when you hear
Yeah.
interviews like this guy, Drake Bell, with Drake and Josh, that even till
Hmm.
this day he doesn't receive anything to it, and he was, the main start of the show. He
Yeah.
hasn't received any money after the show ended. So it's like the balance to it, which you're like, okay, for some actors, yes, but as you said, it's just like some minimum percentage comparing to the rest of it. So now, what inner battle do you still face today that people might not see?
I think, like many people, I have, my own mental health stuff going on that, is all internal. Everybody has their own version of that happening. And I don't think there's anyone who doesn't have some version of that. But I deal with I have like, I deal with OCD and ADHD, and those are constant battles, and I constantly am, working on that, and how and working towards making it as uninterruptive of my life as possible. But I try to look at those things as a positive whenever I can, and I know that there's elements of who I am and my value systems that have been shaped by things like that. So I think it's, you try to flip it all on its head and find the good things about it, but it's not always easy.
And as your definition of success has evolved, what matters more now than just, booking the role?
I think for at this point in my life, I'm really just intent on working with people that I find creatively on a similar page, I guess. I really love when I meet someone who gets my like juices flowing in that way, and challenges my perspective on something, or I have a similar sense of humor to them, like, and we can make each other laugh, and that translates to the work or whatever it is. I think that it's just meeting people who push the artistic buttons that I'm sort of also exciting, that are also exciting to me in that way.
And years from now, what truth about your acting journey do you hope people truly understand?
I hope people just can appreciate that I put a lot of thought into my work, and I try to accurately represent different types of people who share some quality to myself that I can access through them. Almost, I feel like I would like people to just know that work went into whatever they're seeing, I guess.
And in general, like what motivates you? We all have those days that we just want to quit. It's inevitable, happens to all of us. So how you stay positive on one of those days?
I try to take in as much media as I can. And when I say that, I specifically mean like long form media. I try to stay off of, TikTok and stuff, as much as I can, to avoid getting into the habit of just things being clips and quick. And I listen to a lot of podcasts. I try to read. I love watching movies and going to theater. I feel like sometimes in the times when I'm struggling to find creativity in myself, the easiest way to get out of that rut is listening to people talking about their own creativity, or watching someone else be creative. So I put on a movie, I put on a TV show, I listen to a podcast to take a walk, and that usually helps kind of lift me out of those ruts.
What are some of your favorite podcasts?
I listen to Good Hang with Amy Poehler. I listen to Conan O'Brien. I listen to Smart Lists. I listen to Armchair Expert with Dak Shepard. For politics, I listen to Pod Save America. Great podcast. Mike Birbiglia is Working It Out. A lot of interview podcasts. I was like that weird kid in high school who was like watching every Jay Leno and David Letterman interview I could find on YouTube and wishing they were longer. And now I'm like, oh, great. Like these are hour-long versions of those conversations, and they're not interrupted by ads, and they're not there just to promote something and talk about that and leave in 6 minutes. So I've loved podcasts as a medium for that reason. I just love listening to people's authentic selves talking and parsing out ideas.
Do you think we are entering to an era now that we prefer the authenticity now instead of the fake stuff around?
I think so for sure. I think that that's like a massive shift happening. I think I don't want to talk about politics, but like I think in politics, people are looking for authenticity. I think in these types of interviews, people are looking for authenticity. They don't want to hear somebody's, public facing version of themselves talking, because it just feels, you can smell it. You can see it. You can see the inauthenticity. And I think with AI and everything, there's more slop coming out that isn't based in reality and isn't created by humans. So I think people are starved for real human-made arts and conversations that are based in like reality and people's subjective experiences that can't be mirrored by some, prompt in a chatbot or whatever.
Absolutely. And you know what? My last question here, so we can all enjoy and relax after an epic chat here. So, what do you think that could be the best title for this episode?
Authenticity wins.
I'll take it for sure. That sounds like a title to me. A franchise, who knows, maybe at some point when you're writing your own bio book or directing your biopic, if you need a title, you could be like, hey, I already had a title cooked 10 years ago. Have it right here.
Perfect. Daniel and I came up with a perfect one. Yeah.
Sounds a good plan. And you know what? At the end, what can I say? I love the fact you're pursuing this and you're making it happen, because you're not also showing us. I mean, sure, you're giving us cool characters, cool stories to enjoy, and that's incredible. But you're also showing between the lines that dreams can come true. And you know what? That type of positivity is something we desperately need right now in this messed up world. The fact that we can rely on you and many other people who are showing that dreams can come true, that's incredible. And now it's covered what you're bad at. So here we go.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
Pleasure to chat.
I do want to thank also those who stayed the whole episode. Now, by this point, come on, you should discover why David is super badass. So let's share some love. Let's follow him. Let's make him viral. # Team David. And again, man, thank you so much for making this happen. Keep shining out there. Keep rocking. Keep kicking ass. Have an incredible rest of the week. And I'll be seeing you in the next one.